Welcome to the Whimsical Workshop. In this video, I'm going to show you how to take a straight, boring block and make it exciting with a curved pieced bottom. So stay tuned. So here are two examples of the same block, and this one has a straight horizon, and that's fine, and it's traditional, and it's totally acceptable in the quilting world. But if you just add a little bit of a curve to your blocks, it adds interest, it makes it look more natural, and it's not very hard to do. So for our project tonight, I'm going to show you how to do this simple little curved block. So to get started, to cut the block, this is a 9.5-inch finished squared block. You would normally cut 2 pieces of fabric that will sew together and add up to 9.5. So the top piece is 6.5 by 9.5, and the bottom piece is 3.5 by 9.5. If you want to do a curved bottom, what you would need to do is add 2 inches in each direction. So instead of a 3.5 by 9.5, we needed to cut a 5.5 by 11.5 piece for the ground. And instead of a 6.5 by 9.5 for the sky, you would need to cut an 8.5 by 11.5. Basically, you take the cutting sizes that you already had, add 2 inches to each piece, and you will have the size you need to cut. Okay, so now that you have your 2 pieces cut larger than what you need, and I'm just going to set the smaller ones right next to it so you can see it is 2 inches wider and 2 inches higher, 2 inches higher, 2 inches wider for both of those. So you do use more fabric for this, but I think again you come out with such a pretty block. Let's drag this back over here so you can see that. It softens the block, and I think that really makes a big difference. So the next step is to overlap the 2 pieces by 1 to 1.5 inches. You do not need a ruler, you just need to eyeball it. You'll notice I have both fabrics right side up, or you need to have them both wrong sides up. Doesn't matter, just be consistent and make sure both pieces are the same. So now we have that. We're going to pin the 2 pieces together, creating a channel between the 2 layers where they overlap. So I'm going to put some pins along this top overlap. And then again along the bottom overlap. And this I'm doing by feel. I can feel that fabric underneath it with my finger, and that is what I'm using as my guide to put these guys in. So you pin the 2 layers together, which we've got here. Once you have your layers pinned, you're going to take a fabric pencil or a fabric pen, and you're going to draw a gentle curve in between these 2 pins. You want to start out straight, and if you can, end straight, because that will make starting and stopping on a sewing machine so much easier. And you want to make this a gentle curve, not real deep. The deeper the curve, the harder it is to sew. So once I have my gentle curve there, the next step is to cut it. You can cut it with scissors if you don't trust your rotary cutter, or you can use a rotary cutter. You'll see once I get a couple inches in, I put my finger back here to kind of hold the 2 layers, and we're going to just gently cut them apart. Then you remove the pins. And then once you remove the pins, you have a waist piece here and a waist piece under here. You just get rid of these 2 pieces. We don't need them. And now you can see it will match up perfectly. But when you go to sew this, it doesn't match up. It doesn't align. Okay, I'm going to flip that over, and I'm going to bring this over to make it a little easier for you to see the blue on the gray. You can see it is a mirror image. It is a mirror image of each other, and it's supposed to be a mirror image of each other. We get a lot of phone calls because we use this in a lot of our patterns, and people are like, I haven't sewn it, but it doesn't line up, and I don't think it's right. It's right, trust me. We've added an illustration into our pattern to again reinforce that this is what it should look like. So next is we're going to take this over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew it for you so you can see how you ease that curve in, and then we'll come back over here and press. Now that you have both your pieces cut, I'm going to show you how to sew this gentle curve. And you want to cut it straight at the start, and it doesn't matter as much at the end, but definitely at the start, because it gives you a way to align those two edges and makes it a little easier to start sewing. So it doesn't matter which one is on top and which one's on bottom, but you're going to start sewing gently. And as you come up to here, you're going to take this top piece and gently guide it up. Okay, so you can see how I'm just guiding that up. And you just go slow and do a little at a time and ease it up. This is why we cut it bigger. It's not always going to match at the end. In this case, because I said that, it will match at the end. And there we go. There is our curve sewn. And then we're going to go back over and press it. So once you have your gentle curve here, how do you know which way to press this seam? And what I do is I let the fabric tell me. Usually these are all run on different sheeting, different thicknesses of cotton, and it usually wants to lay towards the thinner of the two pieces, and it's not always easy to know what that is. So when I lay this on the ironing board and I use my fingers across it, it's going to want to go one way or the other. In this case, it really wants to go up towards the blue. So we're going to go ahead and use our iron. I like to use the edge of my iron and press into the curve, pressing up. That will help me avoid rolling fabric into that curve. And there it is. There's our curved bottom block. Now we would trim this to 9.5 inches square. And I want to still show you the deep curve, but let me show you that. So once you have this, I happen to have a 9.5 inch square block, which will work perfect. You'll see we are trimming quite a bit of this off. You could do just an inch or an inch and a half bigger, but in this case, we're doing a little block. So we have a lot more slush. If we were doing a background to a quilt that's like 34 by 60, you definitely want to add the 2 inches because it's a much bigger piece and there's a lot more play with the curve. So we would go ahead and cut this block to size. And I always consider this extra a little bit of insurance in case your ends did not meet, and in which case this time they did. But sometimes these can be off by about 1/2 inch, and you really just want to have the extra as your slush. And there we have it. There is our little curved block, all done and ready to go. So let's go back to the challenging one, the deep curve one. And there it is. And you can see how it wants to bubble. I think we would be able to press this into submission, but I want to show you if it, yep, it's going to do it. So if you just press it the way it wants to press, you can see in here, there's like 1/8 of an inch of fabric that's rolled into that seam. If you were to take this back over to the sewing machine, on the back where I pressed it, all right, I'm going to draw 2 lines here so you can see it. The top line, this upper line, is the sewn seam, and the other line is the pressed line. You would go ahead and go back to the machine and follow that pressed line, and then when you go to open this up, it's going to lay right where it wants to lay. So that's a little cheater trick. If you get in over your head and this curve doesn't want to lay flat, you can do the same thing here. That's a way to fix that block. So I hope you've enjoyed this little tutorial on how to do a gentle curve block, and I hope to see you in some of my classes this week. And if not, you can find us at thewhimsicalworkshop.com. That website has all the links to all our social media and our YouTube channel, where we do lots of tutorials for quilts and classes and all kinds of stuff, being creative. So I hope to see you there, and I thank you for coming. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, make sure you like and subscribe below. You can find the Whimsical Workshop on our website, thewhimsicalworkshop.com, and that has all links to all of our other social media platforms. Thanks for joining us.